Oh, hey, by the way, my mic is off. Thank you, Bubonic. So I've just been pantomiming a lot of stuff to you all. I completely forgot that. I was slurping on some tea and didn't want to be impolite. So, quick recap, because even for recording this for YouTube, it wouldn't have picked up. Um, Wheat yellow eyes, so they're kind of muted. Watery, so they look like not unhealthy, but they're kind of it looks like moving flames of some kind. Blushed all over skin because there's a light within, right? If you've ever shown light through your hand and it comes out red, or because he's outside a lot, right? He's a wood elf. He's worshiping the sun god, so he has like a constant like low level sunburn going on, but it's showing the interaction with his body and suffusing it with light. And then his hair being this smoky gray and billowing like fresh smoke off of a healthy fire. And then, as I said, I went with this picture because it encapsulates some of these. No picture is going to be perfect unless you draw it yourself, and even then, you're going to be critical of your own drawing. But here's a bow. Here's kind of the long hair, the leather armor, and then, as I was saying, uh, maybe this is his holy object, which could just be a stone into which he casts the light spell over and over and over again for utility. But at the end of his life, or at the end of his priesthood, or maybe after so many years, these clerics turn in these lights to their main cathedral, and then they get put into like a big relief or a big mosaic, so that there's this constellation of light from all of the clerics who've lived before and have come before in worship of the sun, praise the sun, kind of a thing. Actually, here, I'm going to make this real quick. Whoops. Oh, it didn't show that because it was a command. Here, let's see if this will do it. There we go. So anyway, there we go. We have this sun worshiping, this light worshiping cleric. We've created a little bit of a cool story about it. Now, is this going to work in a pantheon of your DM's creation? Maybe, maybe not. The idea might still be generous and cool. It's certainly in the idiom of a light god or a sun god to be able to imbue things with light, to show off light, or even after he dies to have this eternal light that shows as a part of a memory in his faith's cathedral, or his main area of worship. Um, all right. We're going to use Ferrolando Luxador here as a way to transition into part two of the broadcast tonight. And that's, as a PC, this is PC advice. How do you differentiate your character from another? This could be another person in your party is a rogue and you're a rogue. Well, we have two rogues. What do we do? Or you really like an anime character and you want to make a character like that character, but you don't want to be that character for whatever reason. Maybe you have an original take on it, or you just don't want your friends saying, "Uh huh, you made a Goku." Which, look, there's nothing wrong. If you want to make a Goku, make a Goku. If you want to make, another character from Fairy Tail, or you want to make like a bounty hunter, like a Spike from Cowboy Bebop, or other shows that aren't anime, make them. And you can have your own twist on it, or you can just try and emulate them if you want. Um, but anyway, here's a conversation about how to make your character different than others. The first is be as expected, but that's a good way to help convey the uniqueness of your character. If I say a dwarven paladin, by those two words alone, you probably, boom, instantly have this picture in your mind of what a dwarven paladin looks like. If I say a dwarven paladin with a green mohawk, all of a sudden you say, okay, whoa, hang on. I get the dwarven paladin. I get it. But a green mohawk? Where does that come into play? And now, all of a sudden, they're open minded for your character. Why does your character have a green mohawk? How does that fit in to what's happening? Now, if you're presuming you're not just doing it to, for shock value or something along those lines, which maybe you are, I don't know, maybe that's appropriate for your gaming group. You've now set an expectation where people say, okay, I get like 90% of your character. I don't have to think about that. I want to think about the other 10. Because if you're describing your character to a DM or another player, they may be interested in your character, but after you get into page 2 of your backstory and all this, all of a sudden they kind of go, and you probably don't want that, because and I would assume they don't want it either, because that seems like it's impolite. But there's only so much you can carry in your noggin. You're my friend in real life, let's say. I don't know, but maybe one of you are my friend in real life. I'd have to check the viewer list, I guess. Um, I like you. I care for you as a friend. I don't need to know everything about you, though. How was your day? I know where you work, and I know generally it's retail. I get retail. Believe me, I get retail. What happened that made it different? 90% of the stuff I just kind of want to fill in. It's kind of a mental laziness, or it's called an availability heuristic, if we want to talk kind of some psych terms. We make these mental shortcuts to things that are easy to consume. Well, if I learn at work it was just a regular day, I say, okay, fill in, retail.exe, and I've just run the simulation in my mind. If you say that, oh, you would not believe this customer I had, all of a sudden, all of the background I get, right? Day-to-day retail stuff. Tell me about this one customer, because you've probably had, 200 customers. Tell me about this one. I'm super interested. So if you take your character and you build it on a chassis of something that a lot of people can understand, you'll get a lot more attention and spotlighting if there's an understandable, consumable difference to your character. Not necessarily a widespread one, and ultimately everyone is nuanced. We get that anyway. Do I want to know every single nuance between us? Any of our personal faiths or political philosophies or levels of education or things like that? I personally, I don't care. Not that I don't care about you, but do I want to know all this stuff and how relevant, and am I going to measure all of these variables of you against every variable of me when we're having a conversation? Or do I want to know that you're just a cool dude or dudette and we can sit down and have lunch together and talk about whatever? And then we talk about that one thing, we get along. All the other stuff that maybe we agree or disagree about isn't as relevant because we had this meaningful conversation. So, you can be as expected, but, or AKA, you're the same thing but different. Another way you can help differentiate your character from others is to convey yourself through your voice differently, through your actions differently. So this is more coming along the lines of the on the shirt here. If you can read it, it's called role playing, not role playing. And there's a D20, right? If I'm running a paladin and you're running a paladin, now 5th edition offers a lot of different types of paladins. Just mechanically, you can build. Oh heck, let's go to it real quick. So, among all of the races that you can run, we then have a paladin that can take one of 3 different oaths and has one of 4 different fighting styles. Now, let's say that we're playing half-orc paladins, me and you, and we even both take dueling, and we're both Oath of the Ancients. Well, maybe that's because we're both from the same order, and we learned dueling together. Maybe we're brothers or good friends, or something along those lines. How can we be different from each other? It's how we play our characters. Even though we're from the same order, even though we fight similarly, you might make different decisions. We can look at ability scores if you want to put it on a math chassis, and then you make your role-playing decisions from that. You have a higher charisma for some reason, and I chose to focus on Constitution. Well, carry yourself as a more charismatic person. I'll carry myself as maybe a more stoic or tougher person. Look at the differences in skills. even if all those other things have overlapped, if I take charisma skills and you take intelligence skills or something, or you take dex skills or something, these are going to cause subtle differences. And then we can play off of each other and realizing that we're our own little we are our own little yin yang within the party itself, where we're covering for each other actively. We're able to differentiate each other just enough that we're filling niches or niches, depending on how you want to pronounce it. We're filling these specific niches in a group, and then the group is 5 or 6 people that are existent in an entire world who are filling a niche that we need an adventure of some kind to occur for some specific reason. So don't run away from that. Having sameness is fine. Not everyone has to be a different race and a different class. And oh well, you're playing a sorcerer. That means we already have an arcane caster. I don't want to play a wizard because that's an arcane caster too. I guess I could be a bard because they're an arcane caster, but they're more support. Don't undermine what you want to be and who you want to play. So first things first, I'm gonna write this down. The small subtle changes can lead over a campaign to great differences. With the decisions you make, are you the face, are you the brain, something along those lines. Don't be afraid of sameness. In maybe not the excruciatingly detailed way, but having a wizard and a sorcerer in a party is just fine. Their spell lists are large. A wizard, you can have... wizards have a very large amount of spells they can cast. You can specialize into 8 different schools if you want. Well, you can specialize into one, but you get those effects. You can have a complete party of wizards, and every wizard is going to focus on something different. Every wizard's spell book is going to grow differently than the others. And they're going to focus on different things. Or if you didn't even want... if you wanted to run a thematic campaign like that, heck... We just talked about this. Take the cleric with the knowledge domain. That makes you like a cleric wizard, kind of, sort of, mostly. You get extra spells. You get access to more knowledges. So you're playing something that is the same thing but different. Or you're taking on a multi-class or an uncommon archetype. If you're a barbarian and I'm a barbarian, there are 2 archetypes. You could go berserker, I can go totem warrior, and that's going to naturally diverge us, let alone our personalities. If I go barbarian wizard, like that epic level one that we made last week, that's definitely going to take me in a different direction. It's going to have I'm going to have my own motivations, my own storytelling, my own reasons. You know what? I just noticed that I have. You can see her in the back. Nisa's kind of doing. There we go. Is kind of the opposite of what I have going on over here in this corner, isn't she? So anyway, so we have you can multi-class. You can splash in something else to be a little bit different, or choose the uncommon archetype. A lot of people might say, "Oh, well, our party needs a healer," and a healer is a good role to have. Though I have run for a group that had no healers, and that was interesting too. And that'll be a sub point to here. If you go to uncommon archetype, how many of you have run a knowledge domain cleric, where you're not the Healy cleric that can just maximum power heal and lift curses and regenerate limbs and all this, but instead you play the wizard cleric either by multi-class or by going into the knowledge domain, or instead of the monk that's the straight up martial artist, there's the other one that is like the shadow, like the shadow dancer, like quasi assassin. Or do you like Avatar: The Last Airbender? Go the monk of the elements. You might read that, oh well, one is better mechanically, one will give you more DPR, or one is more efficient in something or another. If you're min-maxing, hey, if that's the game that you want to play, that's your game. I won't poo-poo it. But if you think that you want to go for like the wizard monk, That is the archetype that you want, is to go for the way of the four elements. I think that's the official name of it. It's something close to that. If you don't want a multi-class, go in that archetype. If you want to be a wizard warrior, you take the Eldritch Knight or the Arcane Trickster, which is a fighter and rogue, which is a fighter and rogue domain. I'm sorry, not domain, archetype, respectively. Blend them. Have fun with it. 5th edition, I would argue, more than any other edition, allows you this sort of power, this sort of creativity. You don't always have to be the best at something. Again, you can have a half-orc wizard, and, you know, is he going to have the highest intelligence? Well, at some point, all of your characters can cap rather easily. In fact, let's see, if we... A half-orc wizard that doesn't get any int bumps, and let's say he starts at 15... he could dump his first 2 in at 4 for 17, 19 at 8, and then at level 12, so a little bit over halfway. At level 12, you can put 1 point into int, and then you've naturally capped out. Your orc is at 20 intelligence. Only magical effects and other things can bring you past that, or like DM, DM ability. And then you have a point to put into something else, and then grow elsewhere, or take feats, do something like that. All right, Delcorn, welcome back. So we have an uncommon archetype, and then think about how you want to present your character. Oh, got distracted by Westworld. Yep. You know, I was just talking about Westworld with someone else at my open game here at the store. Which, by the way, I had 14 people come out for Curse of Strahd tonight. It was awesome. Oh my gosh. I'm actually gonna have to split it and run it on 2 different days so that we can get a little bit more manageable groups. But I did I did some fortune telling. I had some props and costumes and did voices, which is a good bleed over into this. How are you presenting yourself as a player? Use a voice. That will help get you into your character and set you apart. Use a voice / accent. Use props or a costume. And refer to yourself by your character's name and use others. That's a big one. If you want to be the character, address yourself as such. Even if you want to narrate in third person because you're not comfortable being completely in first person mode with your character. If your character's name here is Feralando, you can say, Feralando thinks about this, and you can kind of narrate out loud, but you're going through the character's process and then coming to a result. Or you just take it upon yourself and say, no, by the light of my gods, I deem that this is an unworthy cause. However, it is not without redemption. I believe. So now, again, I believe, I think, my cause. You're getting into your character. You're differentiating your character. Because your DM can only set the stage. You as the actor have to make it come alive in front of everyone else. And everyone else are these actors as well, and your director is the DM. You can cause things to come into existence by your mere presence. We just, with what Bubonic was saying over the break, we just made a religious order, and we gave it some sort of custom, and we've created a hierarchy and a dynasty even. Let's see, he was saying, let me go back here real quick. A family of devout elvish sun god worshippers might even make the eldest member head of the pantheon. Well, maybe he's the eldest, or maybe he's not, which might explain why he's coming out. He's only 212, and here he is as a level 4 adventurer. But maybe his family, the Luxadors, are the ones who rule the Sun Temple and have sent him out here to perform a pilgrimage of some kind. Or, maybe he's kind of maybe he's an annoyance, and So Ferrolando here has been not banished, but I mean, you get the idea. He's doing extended mission work. Um, you really want to play that module? Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I wish I took a picture, but I had 14 people around the table, and oh, we were getting into it, and we were laughing, and then we got to kind of a serious point, and oh, it was a ton of fun. And if I run something with you all, I would probably start with Curse of Strahd because I'll have that under my belt and I'll be able to run it really smoothly and efficiently. So if you want to run that, I'm not going to discourage you from doing it or buying the book and looking through it, but that if I was going to run a mod with you all, it would be Curse of Strahd. Okay. So, in this case, if I'm playing Ferrolando, I'm using I and my, and when I make my backstory, I'm not making it 100 pages and handing it to the DM and expecting him to work in everything, right? We have some personality traits, and then we have reasons why we have filled in these three abbreviated squares, these rectangles here. Um, he's blushed all over. So this means that while I'm not intrinsically magic, maybe it's just an environmental thing, or it's, again, we have that glow from within that's causing a bit of a constant rosiness. Um, we have these wheat yellow watery eyes. Maybe that's a sign of his heritage. And so not many wood elves might have these eyes, but those who see him realize he's from this particular line of them. And now we're creating elements that we can work around in the world, and therefore you are creating your niche in the world. And that intrinsically makes you unique from others, right? Even if there's another wood elf and they're a ranger or a druid or something, your wood elf is different because of these reasons. And those reasons don't have to be exclusive to others saying, well, I'm the best wood elf there is. No, that doesn't have to be the case. It's just two different lines doing two different things. Before I get too much further in my soapbox lecture, do any of you have questions on how you have a character concept and you're like, well, I want something like this, but I don't know how to present it, or I'm not sure I like this other type of character, but I don't know how it would translate well into 5th edition. This is the perfect opportunity to talk about it. We're on this PC, I'll call it a PC lecture, but on this topic of how can you differentiate yourself as a player, as your character. Oh, and again, I'm going to hit this hard. Be sure that you refer to the other players by their character name. Unless they specifically ask that you don't, which I've never heard of and would be kind of weird. In this case, we have, if you all in chat are playing here, I'm playing as Ferrolando. And let's say, Bubonic, you're playing Jermaine Sweet Tea Swift, and we have Del Corin as Falco Steadyhand, and Rytel as Rin the Slob Bowback. I'm going to look you in the eyes, and I'm going to say, Rin, can you go scout this out? Like, I know we're in the city. This is your city, though. Again, see, I'm paying attention to your character. I know you're an urchin. I know you're from here. Rin, please, this is desperate. We have to know if the captain of the city guard is meeting with the leader of this guild. If they're meeting, that could have dire consequences. I'm not too good at this. You're the best one here for this job. Can you or and then I'll look over, but I'm looking to you, Falco. Falco, can you two go together and do this? This is super important. I'll run a distraction, right? I got a winning smile. I'll go out, and if necessary, I'll just like preach to a random crowd to cause a distraction for you. And you see, now we're understanding our differences as a party. And here I've drawn on the two rangers of the party who do have overlapping skills, just in different ways, in order to work together. And we're all accomplishing something for the party, but I've made it real. I've conjured this scene for all of us. Rin and Falco are, please go and do that. And I'll tell you what, Jermaine, look, I know you're from this city too, but you run that orphanage, because if we come over here, I sponsor an orphanage to keep others from enduring what I was forced to endure. So boom, we know that an orphanage exists in the world, right? And I, as not you, am referencing you by your name and the things that you're doing. And actually, let me do something real quick here. There we go. Electrical skateboard, you lurker. Is that you? And skateboard, it responds with BTTV, angry, what do I do? I don't trust it. That's an enemy. I'm going to roll a d20. It stops on 14. Do I hit? Depends on my modifier. So, I've drawn you as a player and as your character in. We're making the world real together. We're having this intense eye contact conversation. That's why I keep eye contact as much as I can with you all over the course of the stream. I want to talk to you. Yes, I know there's multiple people in the chat. But through this platform and through a platform like D&D, I can speak to you. I'm having eye contact. I'm using a positive, active voice with you all. We're making this a thing between us. This is our channel. This is our chat. Whether it's ours or ours. Hopefully that makes sense. This also, if you ever have some confidence, you want to work on your confidence or your public speaking skills, doing it in kind of a safety net area like D&D with a crowd of friends is a very good way to practice. All right, so we're creating our niche in the world, if not actual pieces of the world itself, which is how we came up with the entire town that we had generated. Here we go. Boom. This was Klabheim, which was one of the suggestions. And as I was writing the one-page blurb on it, I used as many of these as possible. Those that I can't use, we could just put on the map as a label, or it will come into play during the module that we're going to create on Saturday. And none of this, well, a lot of it wouldn't have been created if it wasn't for the characters themselves. Yet during that DM map making session, we needed the PCs. Now, we imposed our own will, and we put in our own interesting things to think about. Things that the PCs have no idea exist, or they don't know why they exist. Yet, we had this nice back and forth. And, yes, there was 2 rangers. And, oh no, our party has 2 rangers, that really sucks. No, both of those rangers added significant contributions to the party and to the map and to the story. Your physical qualities should be subtle and reasonable. Now, I did say a paladin, a dwarven paladin with like this day glow green mohawk. Is that subtle? Not necessarily. Is it reasonable? Well, if everything else is kind of the same, yeah, because it draws my attention. My eyes want to linger on your character and know what is compelling him to have this, this hairdo. But again, if you submit a 20-page long backstory that has every single detail of your character, am I as a DM going to be able to work in why is it that your veins actually look purple instead of blue? Or, am I going to ask why do you have purple hair with a green streak in it? Or why you have heterochromatic eyes beyond the obvious fact that it's genetic and it's random? It's not that I don't necessarily care, but can I care? Do I have the time and the ability, and is it relevant for things to happen? With the character that we created here, physical qualities should be subtle and reasonable. So we're saying that we have this, we're going off of the chassis that we have a light-worshipping cleric. This is automatically bringing things to mind. We're thinking warm thoughts, we're thinking glowing, right? We just look at the, oh, I'm sorry, this is Germaine. Here we go. Warm and glowing. Look at the spell list. From your domain, you get light, burning hands, fairy fire. We get it. You don't need to hit us over the head. You like fire. You like light. You're Missandra from Game of Thrones, kind of a thing. You can even describe that as my character is like this, but blah blah blah. So what we did here is we played on that. We're a little subtle. Everyone has these images already conjured up of warmth and flame and fire. So we're gonna give him these wheat yellow watery eyes. It stands out a little bit, but is it over the top? No. He's blushed all over. Is that going to be really relevant? Not necessarily, but it could add a cool element. Why is he blushed? Is it a sunburn? Is this internal light effect? Pardon, a combination of both? Or in all honesty, what if he just really has fair skin and he burns easily? Yeah, he's a wood elf, but things happen. And the smoky gray hair, it could be natural, or I could say that it's natural if I'm playing this character, and would you know any better? But secretly, I actually just, I use just for elves to dye my hair. And honestly, this could just be something that's a part of a ritual. He could just be vain. Maybe he wants to create a cool effect, and it's sort of like a weakness. Like, oh, I really wish I had gray hair, and I don't, but I can make gray hair. Wink. That kind of a thing. Hey, Big Break, it's good to see you back here. Welcome. And Delcorn says, OMG, no shadow babies. Wait, a green mohawk would be subtle in the 80s. What do you mean shadow babies, though, Delcorin? If I missed something. Oh my gosh, and Perugia's in here too? And it stopped on a 16 on your first roll? Get out of here. Actually, you know what? Who are you, and what have you done with Perugia? I think I might have to roll random and find out if it's actually you. Okay, well, it didn't choose you, but let's see what happens. I sense someone or something approaching. Cautiously, I hail the figure, hoping it's my friend. Stream Elements? Is that you? It suddenly responds, Pull Doge. What do you do? Whoa. Stream Elements, I thought I knew you. You're my mod. What is even a Pull Doge? It's not even manifesting as a it must be like a BTTV one or something. It's not manifesting as an icon up on the chat. Well, it looks like more of the gang's coming in here, so welcome. What you're looking at here, Farolando Luxador, was the random character that we made in the first segment, but now we're using him and the others throughout the week here. Rin Bobak, Falco Steadyhand, and Jermaine Swift to help with this PC lecture. How do you differentiate your character from another one in your party, from a motivation, or from a source on TV or anime or a movie or a book? And how can we encourage you as a player? How can you be a different player? Or how can you get into your character and make your character different? Even in the case where we have Rin and Falco were randomly generated, both were rangers, both kind of cross over in similar ways, we can make them vastly different still. And this party doesn't suffer for having a ranger beastman and a ranger hunter, even though a lot of them overlap in the Venn diagram. Delcorn, Perugia, how did you know? Delcorn says, the lady from GOT you mentioned, did you mean Melisandre? Yeah, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. That was the first thing that came to mind. But yeah, Melisandre, she wears red. Right, shadow babies. Got it. Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's a spell that I guess you could say kind of does that we could have taken at second level. It would just be kind of a weird thematic take on it, but mechanically it might be able to do the same thing. Hey, whatever you're into, though. I'm not here to judge. Big Break says they're going to do their first sesh without me because his first time DMing, but I'm going to be in for the next session after that. Pretty stoked to say, hey, man, I'm stoked for you. Please, if any of you, like Big Break, Dell, anyone else, Perugia, if you're playing in games, please come in and share with everyone what happened, how's it going, did you have questions, concerns, did something happen and you're excited, or you're not sure, like, does something work like that? And you can bring it over the course of one of the, like, I'll call them lectures because that sounds fancy, over part 1 and 2. You can certainly bring it up in part 3, which is the general Q&A and sharing. But I want to hear about what you all do. I just don't want to sit here and lecture to you the whole time. I want to know what's going on in your worlds with your characters. What are your thoughts? Did you encounter a problem and how can we overcome it? That's why we're here together as a community. I'm all for making the shadow baby, but I draw the line at that. Yeah, I suppose making the shadow baby is going to be a little bit more fun than the consequences of it, right? Oh, you guys, you guys. Um, that does bring up something though. Theme your spells or abilities differently. If I'm a wizard casting magic missile, I think we all kind of get a generic, okay, so these little like pew pew beams of light come out. Well, magic missile can be somewhat obscure in how it describes what the magic missiles are. In fact, that's a great opportunity for you to customize your magic missile to be more like your character. For instance, let's say that you're a wizard and you grew up on a farm and you raised sheep and rams and all of that, goats and whatnot. So maybe your magic missiles, because that's what you know, right? It's force damage, and so maybe they come out shaped with little ram horns at the end, because that's your character's special take on magic missile. Mechanically, nothing has changed. You've not changed the range. You've not changed the any light it sheds. You've not changed the damage or the damage type, but you've personalized something that everyone's like, oh yeah, magic missile, I know that, and you're saying, but they look like my magic missiles have little ram horns because they punch into people with force damage. Maybe we even say, yes, we've built him around this kind of warm light, warm fire. Well, what if we said instead that, or I'm sorry, not Falco. Let's come back over here to Farolando. Hi. Can you not destroy my chair, please? I don't know if she's listening. But flames can burn in all kinds of natural colors, let alone if we just want to make some up, right? I mean, think like fireworks. What if we even say that those of his order, their magic changes? And so, starting levels, mechanically, we're talking like levels 1 through 5, 1 through 6, or heck, even 1 through 10. Your flames are like they're the warmer, dirtier colors, right? Oranges and reds and yellows. Well, maybe after 11, you've hit some kind of a spiritual peak, and now you're starting to get like that pure burning blue, like a natural gas, or propane, or things along those lines. You're getting like this pure, like odorless, fumeless. It's a very efficient burning. And so now your magic hasn't changed itself. The mechanics are fine. Your DM doesn't have to worry about you're adding something in or it's a different kind of fire. But you've shown growth through the things that you're doing. Hey, Shadzar. Now that I have OBS sorted, I need to get Discord. Winky face, you are absolutely correct. And so I'm just gonna go work on the Discord because it needs done. Place for our community to talk to each other where there's no live stream, or a place you could voice chat with people while I stream. And Big Break seems to agree by saying dude and has a little carrot going up. Perugia says, my group is all over the place nowadays. Some are nights, some are days, some live farther away. It's like 1 month we can pull it off. Consistency is the end boss of D&D. In fact, I think I read a poll somewhere that most D&D campaigns don't go past level 10. And I think that's presuming if everyone starts at level 1. And even then, a lot of people don't start at level 1 because level 1 is, I don't know, like kind of boring. Or some will just skip past it after one session. Whatever you want to do. And so that's why the majority of the monsters have been themed as lower level monsters, because that's where the bulk of the content that the community partakes in plays. And that's why this Mordenkainen's book coming out is going to be a little different, because it's going to feature about half the monsters are going to be challenge rating 10 or higher. So that means the other half is going to be lower level, but for the big boys who stick it out. For instance, my campaigns, we go from start to finish. Even in 4th edition, we were going to level 30, baby, every campaign. Now, we were pounding out a campaign about every year and a half, depending on the story. But we were making those levels, and every level was a milestone. You accomplished something. I wasn't just handing out levels for nothing. And so, I mean, you can call me a completionist here. I'm not speed running through through D&D. That'd be an interesting thing to do. That's it. We're gonna invent it. You want to speed run through Curse of Strahd? uh, but yeah, so that's Perugia. That can be difficult. Attention spans, geography, and all of that. So theme your spells or abilities differently. Talk to your DM about it and make sure it's cool. Don't change the mechanics, but just change. For one reason or another, you do something or you don't do something. Your magic spells look different. Maybe you have a favorite martial art that doesn't really jive with, how monks are traditionally presented. Well, theme it differently. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, already got D&D speed runs. They happen every Wednesday. I'm not sure I follow you, Shadzar. You're giving me a winky face, but I don't know if I'm following you. Is that because you play, do you play, why am I forgetting the name of the module? But the campaigns that Wizards puts out, because isn't that done on Wednesdays? Sorry if I'm being a derp, by the way. And my cat is freaking out on the back of my chair. What are you doing? Hi. Look, everyone's watching you. That's your tail. Wow. Someone else does D&D speed runs. I couldn't speed run COS if I had my way to explore the crap out of Barovia. Yeah, you could play that mod several times over if you didn't read ahead, and you're going to find new stuff every time, Delcorin. But I wasn't going to just post the stream name, but a whole don't advertise. Um, I'm not worried about that, Shadzar. I appreciate your by default respect. If you want to share a name of a channel, that's fine. It's up to you all. You can watch it, you can not. I have links to other channels down below in mine, people that I recommend. For instance, there's a guy who he bounty hunts and he streams him going and catching criminals and bringing them to jail. And heck, I think I don't know if he's running right now, but he runs during the evening a lot of times too. I would recommend that you watch him. It's really cool stuff. And if you want a character that does that kind of thing, you're getting like first person knowledge about how bounty hunting is done. So yeah, I'm not worried about it, Shadzar. I appreciate it. You can post the link up in there. That was very polite of you, and I respect you for doing that. Perugia says, started looking at tabletop simulator for games. Quick load map setup can put people in a cave while they're in a cave. Feels a bit janky, but that would help. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. We're about at the end of this section anyway. Going over these different ways that you can make your character different. There's something you do have to worry about, though, and I've hinted at it a little bit in the course of our conversation. You can make yourself such a special, unique snowflake that you just sort of come full circle back around, and because you're completely either a Mary Sue or you've just everything about you is a special twinkly ornament, that you are not special. Because no one can keep track of it, and it's just easy to say, you can say, well, I'm a human, but I have two different colored eyes, and one is a normal pupil, and the other one is slitted like a cat. And then I have, I'm young, but I have white hair, and it's really long, but I wear my long hair up. And then I have my fang teeth are a little bit longer, but I'm still a human, I promise. And then I actually have this, and then I have like tattoos all down one arm, but the other I challenge myself to keep pristine and whatever. Our eyes are gonna boggle and they're gonna bleed, and we're not gonna care after a while. I say this with all due respect. I want you all to have colorful, unique characters. There's only so much your DM's brain and your other player's brain is going to contain. And I would even challenge you that if you have 100 unique features to a vanilla human fighter or whatever, can you remember all of your special unique features and make them relevant in every tabletop session? And if you do, can you run faster than everyone else at your table for slowing the game down? This is a little bit of a wink and a nod. Again, I want you to be creative, but just realize that at some point in time, you're going to hit a critical mass, and people are just not going to care, and they're going to call you the human fighter. They don't care about your eyes or the fact that you're young, yet you have white hair, and that you have blah, blah, blah. You're going to be the human fighter. And you're going to give yourself, like, a name that has elven origins, but then, you know, it has like a tiefling last name, family name, because your uncle is a tiefling and all this other stuff. People are going to call you Bob. You're Bob the Human Fighter. And you will forever be Bob the Human Fighter in that campaign. Because you've just come full circle. How about the Speedrun D&D website, and people can read all about it, even if you might like it, but he only uses Fantasy Grounds. Okay, so Shadzar provided a link. Though some people can't even remember basic race features. It's just too much junk in modern D&D. That's true. We got to go back to the old days where if you were an elf, that was your race and your class. When you were a dwarf, you were a dwarf. So yeah, GeoQuester Gaming. I'll even open that up in a window just so I can take a look at it too. Thank you for sharing that. Delcorin says, hearing a description once or twice is okay, but after that, everyone takes on a generic appearance in my mind, unless it has an effect on a specific situation. That's true, and that's why, things like character art or character art can come in handy, or miniatures. No miniature, unless you sculpt it yourself, is going to look exactly how your character looks. And even then, what happens when you swap out between a sword and a crossbow? That way, because we are so used to addressing each other by name, like IRL, the best way to convey your character is use your character's name, because things will attach itself to that name. So Delcorin, just because you're talking here, the name Delcorin suddenly brings back, the things that we've talked about. I've created this little file, this Delcorin file. That sounds really cool. The Delcorin file. Anyway. And so when you make your character your name and you use it, it's going to be a lot easier for other players and your DM to remember what you've done and to accept some of the unique features about your character. Whoa, Steel Dust is here. Oh man, we better shut it down. Party's over, no fun allowed. I would remember their first name, race, and class. Beyond that, it's all generic. It can be blinding. I would definitely recommend at least first name. Get on a name-on-name basis. That's the biggest mnemonic device you can create for your character and everyone else's. And as a DM, don't just say, okay, so John, you're up. Well, it is John's turn. But if John is piloting Falco Steadyhand, say, all right, Falco, you're up. What are you doing? Last I knew, you had a bow and arrow in your hand. Are you going to shoot? What's going on, Falco? And you're reinforcing this. That person is Falco. Falco is the source of attention. Everyone's paying attention to what Falco is doing, not what John is doing. Shadzer says something is missing from modern character sheets that BD&D? AD&D? Did you mean A or? It was a place for a character portrait. I had so many characters that look the same because they're all stick figures with stick swords. Well, this one does, in all fairness, it does have on the second page here an area, a small one. Now, oh shoot, I didn't bring it with me. One of the girls in my Curse of Strahd game actually illustrated a full body rendition of her character, and it looks great. Oh, I love it. It's amazing. I'll bring it in for you. Maybe I can do it tomorrow or something and show you. But I would recommend sketch, even if it's a stick figure. Sketch something. Get a friend to do it. Get on DeviantArt and commission someone. And don't be afraid. Fill in your character backstory. Use this allies and organizations. Remember the NPCs' names. Remember the town names, because that's going to make it come alive. That's going to differentiate you from other players who just say, oh, that one place we went to 2 sessions ago. Instead, here we are. We're talking about Clabheim. This is the living, breathing city that we made. It has this stuff. When you say Clabheim, what do people think? I say Klabheim, you say mines. Klabheim, mines. Klabheim, mines. Peru says, I forgot as a monk one time that I can deflect arrows, but me, they have a bow. Friend, you're a monk. Kicks me out the door. It's a Bible thump from Steel Dust. Oh, sorry, Steel Dust. Here, maybe I can make up for it here. Do I choose you as a random? Nope. Oh, I sense someone or something approaching. Cautiously, I hail the figure, hoping it's my friend. Delcorin? Is that you? Whoop. It suddenly responds. Whoop. And you know what? I got so excited I clicked out of chat, so I think I lost it. Boo. Well, anyway, Delcorin, you may not be a dog, or you might, because let's face it, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. Nobody. So in that case, Delcorin, I'll probably just say, good boy, and give you some pets or something. I'll give you a treat. Well, hey, I refreshed my channel and I'm still live and I'm not dropping frames. Oh yeah, not dropping frames in OBS. All right, with that, I'm going to say that our PC lecture on differentiation and encouragement, and differentiation as characters, and as players, we've done a good job there. I'm going to take another short rest. You all are welcome, because we're going to sit in, and then we're just going to go into, it's jam out time, right? We're gonna chill. We'll talk. If you have questions, I'll answer them. We can share stories from the tabletop. We can share links, things along those lines.